releasing that and accepting this is where this person is. This is who this person is. And just, can we just simply accept who they are, but also accept who we are?
If you're not conscious about your investment strategy, you won't end up where you want to be, not financially or as a human. On this show, we interview highly successful investors and share how they overcame limitations to become unstoppable forces of success. If you're ready to learn what it is to be a conscious investor so you can end up where you want, keep listening.
Welcome back, Conscious Investor. Can you believe it? We've gone through the entire Motivation Manifesto book by Brendon Burchard over the last couple of 2.5 months. I've never done a project like that with you in tandem, where I've gone through and just really taken the highlights to bring to light for you. So you kind of get the Cliff's Notes in a sense. The book is absolutely fantastic. So although you likely enjoyed all those podcast episodes, pick up a copy of the Motivation Manifesto, reference it. It's super powerful because I only gave you the cream of the crop. But I'm going to tell you in full transparency, I nearly broke integrity with the Motivation Manifesto project. There were a few times in recording those episodes where I was like, but I want to have, I have this concept. I want to talk about this with the conscious investor, and I want to talk about that. And so there were times where I really had to draw upon inner self-discipline to say, okay, you made a commitment and you're going to stick through this process. And here we are on the other side of it. And Conscious Investor, I am so excited to be able to have the freedom to just like share some concepts that have been on my mind for a long time. And this is really important to me because I think that, well, you let me know oftentimes in person, via email, on social platforms, on the amazing reviews that you leave. You let me know that a lot of these mindset episodes are really powerful for you. So I'm just letting you know, if you are a new Conscious Investor listener, that this is back to old school. This is OG now, because I'm going to just be sharing, mindset concepts that are, I believe, very relevant to all of our lives and that will help support and empower you to live that most conscious life possible. All right. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, Mode Wealth. Tax season, it's behind us now at this point. I mean, we're in May. Although I will argue that if you are truly being strategic with your wealth building and management, you need to file an extension. I just don't know how you can get away around not filing an extension when you are working a lot of different tax strategies. But you know what? That's not for me to decide. That is for you and your tax strategist. So if you are looking for someone to really help you find the best tax strategies to implement for your situation, please schedule a time to meet with Melvin from Mode Wealth. Down in the show notes, you can just click a link and schedule a time right there. Fantastic. You also find that Melvin is absolutely fantastic, has amazing energy, and really understands how to guide and direct people in a powerful way. All right, let's dive in, because toxic people are reality. And, maybe I was a little toxic the first time I recorded this, because honestly, every time I'm recording and I'm a little nervous or hesitant about the content, I literally pray about it. And I'm just like, if something's really not going on right there, Lord, then please just, censor it in some capacity. And God is good and intervenes in our lives in all sorts of crazy ways. And it turns out that I got this message from my amazing production team for the podcast. And they're like, there's no audio on this recording. Meanwhile, I'm trying to head out to speak at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. And I'm like, oh no. So it's kind of one of those blessings in disguises where you're like, okay, Not the most convenient time to need to wake up a little earlier and re-record, but I'm so grateful for that little sensor because I've thought about this even further. And I might have a more productive way of discussing this concept. We all engage with toxic people on a regular basis. And toxic people, for definition and purposes of this podcast episode, are just going to refer to people who are emotionally combustible. And they take that emotion and they perpetuate that and they spread that negativity and hostility in the world around them, either in obvious ways or subversive ways. In one form or another, that is what they're doing. You might find this person at your workplace. Maybe they're that person that's just constantly undermining the boss, constantly back talking and gossiping about people, and it's just, oh my goodness. You might find this with a friend of yours or a coworker or a family member, where it's just, you feel like drama is just constantly in their path and like all around them. You're just like, dang, I don't know how they get by every single day with all of that. You might find it within your family where maybe you feel criticized and you don't feel seen because everything that you do is never good enough and it's just kind of pounced on. You see, we engage toxic people all the time. In fact, we ourselves can be toxic people. I mean, and so we could say, okay, how are we toxic all the time? No, but we have our moments where maybe we're not shining at our very best. And if we're honest, come on, just be honest with yourself. I was talking with my son is working with an amazing coach. If you have a teenage son who is looking for a coach, check out the Building Men podcast. My friend Dennis and his brother have this amazing podcast, and he's actually does this whole coaching program for teenage guys growing into masculinity, and has this program called The Foundation. Well, our son is involved in it, and it's just been a fantastic program. If you want the information, just reach out to me or go to their podcast. But all this to say, Steve and I were meeting with Dennis, and we were talking, and I threw myself under the bus. I'm like, yeah, sometimes the happy can be the opposite, So it's really important that we also understand. We'll get into that in a moment as we're talking about how are we dealing with toxic people, because this is just something that's going to happen in all of life. At some point, you might be the culprit or someone else might be the culprit. And really, truly toxic people, it's consistent. It is like, this is the pattern of their life. This is how they go through life. This is how they, I just want to say get through life. I don't even think that's getting through life, but I think you get the idea, right, conscious investor? And one of the challenges with the toxic people in life, right, is that they draw us in, or they can really try to draw us in and bring us down and bring chaos into our life and disorder into our lives. A lot of times these people can inject and infuse thoughts. This is the power of words, is that thoughts or words create thoughts in people's lives, especially as depending on where someone is at in personal growth and development. If we haven't come to that point to where we can let thoughts just pass through and take the good and leave the rest, then those words that people say, even under the tone of their breath, those words can actually just like become these monster thoughts. Okay. That also just truly reflects on, okay, we have to grow also. Sometimes toxic people will lead to doubt, frustration, and confusion in our lives. If we really haven't identified that someone isn't an anchor person in our life, and we're going to them for consultation or advice of any kind, we might find ourselves doubting ourselves, confused, frustrated, anxious, worried. And so we want to be aware of the people in our life. Now, here's the reality, is that you're not going to get away from toxic people. You are going to engage them at the grocery store, as you're driving, maybe in your home, and maybe at your workplace. Like, it's just part of life. And so having a solution, how we engage, is super critical. And one of the first things, I'm going to give you 3 concepts that I'd like to share with you in dealing and navigating with these type of people. And the first one is total, complete acceptance. I think there's this concept that goes through my mind. One of my friends that I bike with, this comes up. It's like surrender and acceptance, surrender and acceptance. And I think honestly, that's been part of my mountain biking. It has really helped me lean into that concept, because this friend, will say that, or, maybe not so much now, but definitely I remember on those early rides when I was struggling going up, the mountainside, it would just be like, just accept or surrender. And it's like, oh my gosh. So it's a little ingrained in me, but I'm glad it is. And really, so many books that I've read over the last 4 or 5 years have really led into that exact same philosophy, is that we really do need to just simply surrender and release. Like, okay, I have no control over this person, over this situation, and we can just surrender. This is not mine, and we can surrender it. And then we can accept people where they are for who they are. It's interesting once we remove ourselves from it and say, this isn't about me. What do I need to release in the situation? What do I need to release when this person is coming at me with these horrific words and they're being really rude to me and I have not imposed on them? And it could be a total stranger. It's interesting because in my husband's real estate business, he actually markets out to our community. That makes sense. You want to let people know how you can serve and support them in their real estate needs. That's a really great opportunity in our opinion. And so, he'll send out these postcards, just, reminding them, hey, I'm here. I love to serve and support you. Here's how. And inevitably, a couple times a year, he'll get a voicemail from someone who received a postcard. And it's not just limited to our community here, because we were discussing this the other day. I mean, it's happened when we lived in California. It's happened here. It's not just an isolated geographical place. But it's interesting that people will take time to leave really hostile and aggressive messages about a postcard they received. Like, I will not ever sell my house. I would never hire you. I'm like yelling into the phone. And so what do you do? What do you do? And maybe it's not a stranger. And maybe it's not a response to the business and services that you offer. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a child in your life, and and young children. We have to learn how to navigate those teenagers and their words, right? And our adult children and such. And so, as we are navigating these paths, when we are able to simply surrender the parts that could hurt us as a person, just surrendering that, releasing that, and accepting, this is where this person is. This is who this person is. And just, can we just simply accept who they are, but also accept who we are? So that means we really have to be grounded. I paused there on purpose. We really have to be grounded in our concept of who am I? Who do I want to grow into? Who do I want to look back on in this situation right here? That right there is a critical question, because we will always be looking back. 5 years is going to pass. So you'll look back on the situation that you're in today, just like you're looking back on situations from 5 years, 10 years ago, right? And so we want to go, who do I want to be? When I look back and reflect on this situation, who do I want to see show up? And then we have that ability to be that person. And in that same vein, that takes us to the next point, is a high level of awareness. Be aware of who the toxic people are in life. Just like you're aware of all the people that are uplifting and encouraging and inspiring. It's the same thing, like just simply be aware, but also be very aware of who you are. You get to decide, and no one else around you can tell you who you are or who you should be. They will try. The peanut gallery, as I always call it, right? The peanut gallery in life is always going to try to heckle and badger you into being who they want you to be. But ultimately, this is your decision. You decide, you call the shots, because guess what? You are the person that is going to wake up and look in the mirror. You are the person that is going to live with the decisions that you are making. And so when you're engaging, toxic people or any person in general, we need to be super aware of, who is it that I want to be in this situation? I'll give a quick little spoiler. And this is just an insight because I'm re-recording this and everything, and I'm getting ready to hop on a flight. But one thing that I realized is that I have a lot of energy. and it's interesting, at a recent event, somebody had thought that I had maybe one too many to drink. Because you guys know, I like cocktails. Steve's a great mixologist. I love wine. I'm from California. I lived in Denver. The Front Range, all those microbreweries. I don't have a problem with that. But my entire life, even prior to the first time I ever had a sip of alcohol, which was probably when I was about 24, 25. But all this to say, people always thought that maybe Julie had one too many, because I am so full of energy and excitement. And I am a true extrovert, probably on the 99th percentile, where other people really feed me and give me energy. And I hate to say it, maybe I'm an energy vampire. Give me your energy. But all that to say is that I've realized, I was talking with Steve on a walk yesterday, that being with this concept of heightened self-awareness, well, maybe that means that if I go to events, maybe I shouldn't have anything to drink, just so people really know, like, no, this isn't any substance of any kind entering my system. This is just me being fully me. So it's really important that we are understanding, who are we? How do we want to show up? What do we want people to see from us? And we don't have control over how people receive us, but we do have control over how we present ourselves and how we carry and conduct ourselves. And so that's where our responsibility is. We can be aware of us, of ourselves. We can also be aware of others and aware that they are growing as well. I just want to go back real fast to acceptance and just put an asterisk there, and a reminder that when we are accepting something, it doesn't mean that we are approving. Let me say that again. Acceptance does not equal with approval. And so sometimes when we hear, oh, I'm accepting this, it's either maybe I'm quitting and giving up, or I am condoning this and I am saying that this is a good thing. Acceptance does not hinge on you saying that this is a good thing. It's not a value statement. It's just simply, this is what it is, and I'm accepting it for what it is. All right. The third area, so we had acceptance, awareness, and this final, way that we can kind of solutionize around dealing with toxic people is we can distance ourselves. And there are a lot of ways that we can create some healthy boundaries in these type of situations. So in some cases, geographical distance is great. Now, I'm not saying go and move or anything like that. Okay. But our proximity to people is really important. So our proximity can be geographical, but we can also have that proximity of how accessible am I to this person? Are they able to text me on a regular basis? And am I encouraging that in any capacity? So if I'm texting it, if someone's sending a text and you respond immediately, you're giving that feedback that, oh, I'm invested, I'm involved, I'm here, I'm present all the time. And we can have that proximity, and just to set healthy boundaries that say, I don't respond immediately, and I'm going to just create a little space in the texts or in the phone calls. Maybe I just simply don't get together as often with that person. These are all different ways that we can do that. So we need to remember that we are personally responsible. Our purpose in life and our personal freedom, it requires our personal responsibility. I don't mean to be redundant, but I'm going to say that again. Purpose and personal freedom require personal responsibility. And with this, we have to this is going to be harsh maybe, without having this, we're actually just simply taking up space on planet Earth. So we want to be conscious investors. We want to be using our heartbeats diligently. We want to be listening very carefully to the direction that we're trying to head in life and make sure that we are leaning into that purpose so that we're investing in the most important things in life, that we are creating that opportunity for powerful wealth in the entire world. All right. That is short. And that was kind of like a abrupt halt right there. But I'm looking at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get to the airport. But conscious investor, I hope this supports you. At any point in life, we're going to be dealing with people that are toxic. And we have an opportunity, especially as we grow and develop internally, as we create that internal resilience, as we become very clear about who it is that we want to grow into and how that correlates with the greater purpose that we have in our life. We're then better equipped at that point then to support people and just to simply be, to have that ability to have acceptance, ability to be aware, and ability to create appropriate distance and proximity and boundaries for those people in our lives. Well, Conscious Investor, I appreciate you. And don't just send this to anybody because you're like, oh, well, that person, they really need to hear that. Just really internalize this for yourself. And you might send this to somebody in the sense of like, wow, this concept, there are some zingers in here and I'm grateful for it. Maybe send it to somebody in that capacity, but let's first make sure that we're in check and then share it out to the whole world. But please do invite your friends and family and everybody in the world to listen to The Conscious Investor. Until next time, live big, love bigger, and do great things. What's the big deal about investing in apartments? Why is it better than investing in a slew of single-family homes? I've compiled a lot of information on why investing in a multifamily, also known as apartments, will help you reach your investment goals. Head over to 3keysinvestments.com and download the Why Invest in Multifamily guide today.